Gravel bikes have come an awfully long way, haven't they? Cast your mind back to just 2016, not that long ago really, and Italian company 3T launched the Exploro, hailed as the world's first aero gravel race bike, and loads of people laughed at the idea of aero really mattering on a gravel surface. Well, these days aero is everything. The bikes, the wheels, the clothing, the approach to racing, it's all about aerodynamics. So you could say that 3T were ahead of the time with that original Exploro. That original Exploro turned into the RaceMax in 2020, and now for 2025 we have the brand new second generation RaceMax 2, which I've been riding for the last few weeks on my local trails, and I'm going to review it today. We'll go for a ride, see how it performs and compares to other racy gravel bikes, some likes and dislikes I've discovered. But first, before that, let's dive into details and updates on a brand new bike. So, it's an evolution of the first generation RaceMax, and side by side you'd be hard pressed to tell the difference. They haven't really changed the sort of blueprint of the bike that much. So visually, yeah, it looks very similar. And that includes the down tube, one of the most distinguishing features of the 3T, and still stands out all these years later. So it's narrower by the front wheel, 54 millimeters wide, but flares out to a massive 75 millimeters down here by the water bottle to shield airflow around that water bottle. So very unique down tube. The biggest visual clue to a new bike is up front, and we have what can only be described as a nose cone on the head tube, similar to the Specialized Tarmac SL8. The head tube is also narrower, and the fork blades are really narrow as well, and a real low profile fork crown. And those changes and updates contribute to a claimed 1.5% improvement in aerodynamics. The seat tube curved around the rear wheel and very skinny rear stays, and the chain stays are both dropped to give tyre clearance. Talking of which, tyre clearance on the new bike has improved over the old bike, and they say a tyre range from 41 to 51 width as measured, actual width of the tyre. That's a 1x, but with 2x you can fit a front mech. That max tyre clearance decreases to 48. So it's an improvement, it's definitely in the right direction, but I don't think it's wide enough, because we're seeing bikes with 53, 57, 58 in some cases, and we've seen how popular mountain bike tyres have become over the US gravel racing scene. So this bike, yeah, it's better, but is it better enough? I'm not so sure. And the bike I've been testing wears 45 millimeter wide tyres, but actually measure 46 on these super wide rims. The geometry has been refined, and the head tube angle is actually steeper, 71.5. The fork offset being modified to increase the sort of handling agility, and the bottom bracket has been lowered to offset the increased height of a bigger volume wider tyre. Interestingly, they've gone steeper in the geometry, where more bike brands go a bit slacker for a bit more stability at high speed. They've gone steeper to make it, I guess, a bit racier feeling. And the chain stays are still super short, just 420 millimeters. 425 is more common on bikes like this with similar tyre clearance, so the work they've done with the drop rear stays have kept the back end really tight, and that should promote that really agile, responsive handling they clearly want from this race gravel bike. And two other key updates include internal frame storage. The first time for 3T, it's increasingly popular on gravel bikes. I personally like it. An easy way to keep all your stuff in the frame and out of the elements. And with your tools in there, that freed up space on the seat post for a built-in rear light. You get 25 lumens of light power and 5 modes. And I think quite a cool feature. BMC did that on their road machine. Canyon do one that's not quite so well built in, but yeah, when you've got internal frame storage, you can have a built-in rear light. But I'm sure people will complain they'd rather have their own rear light, so you can remove it to put a blanking plate on if you prefer. So here we go, riding the brand new 3T RaceMax 2 Italia. I've been lucky to ride every version of the 3T gravel bike, from the original Exploro all those years ago, through to the RaceMax and the Ultra, and now the RaceMax 2.
And it's always been a bike that has impressed when it comes to going fast off-road or on-road too. This new bike, I can't say it feels any faster than the old RaceMax. I mean, they're talking about 1.5%, which is naff all. Not enough to really detect out here in the real world, but it's definitely a smoother bike now. I don't think the RaceMax has ever been the comfiest, most supple riding bike when going off-road. Always been on the measly side with tyre size, but now with 45mm wide tyres, actually measuring 46, it's much smoother. But definitely not as smooth as a Italia Rave or a Specialized Diverge or the Giant Revolt. They are all smoother, comfier bikes. But there is no denying it's a fast bike. It's rapid on this trail, this type of trail I'm riding right now. Feels very similar to a Canyon Grail, Cervelo Espero and a Italia Rave SLR I recently reviewed. In that same sort of ballpark in terms of speed and pace on gravel. But it feels nowhere near as nimble and playful as the Giant Revolt I recently rode. And I think part of that down to the massive stem they put on this bike. I'm riding inside a large frame, so a 56cm, but I have a 130 stem, which is longer than I use on a race bike. My Specialized Crux, for example, has a 90mm stem because I favour faster steering and nimbleness when riding off-road on a single track, in the woods, down my favourite trails. But oddly, despite the massive stem, I don't feel too stretched. A bit more than I would like. I definitely prefer a shorter stem, and I'm sure you're buying the bike, you can expect a stem you want and need. But thanks to the steep seat tube angle and the inline seat post, the saddle is quite far forward. So my reach isn't actually that bad. It doesn't feel terrible, but I can see it being ideal for a fast course like Unbound, those big open stretches of gravel. Crouch down low on the hoods, get aero, as you focus on your average power. Right, let me share some likes and dislikes, and we'll start with the good stuff first. I still think it's a good looking bike. I've always liked the look of the Explorer and the RaceMax. I like the shaped down tube and how fat it is around the water bottle, the really slender fork and that real low stack crown, and I don't mind the nose cone either. Drop rear stays. Got details like UDH, which are cool. So it takes the new SRAM Explorer group set, which I love a lot. And I do like the rear light built into there. That's cool. And yeah, it's an expensive bike, but there's nothing I would change. The group set, the tyres, the wheels are good. Even got a really nice comfy saddle, and the handlebars, okay. Quite like the flare on the handlebar. But dislikes start with the stem. Simply too long at 130. And while the brake hoses go underneath the stem, so you could, in theory, change it for another one quite easily, you have to use a 3T stem. They had developed their own internal routing system, not compatible with MV or anything else on the market, so that's a real shame. And if I'm honest, it's not the prettiest stem in the world. Very personal, I know. So, and I don't like the way it doesn't really sit with the frame, the way the nose cone comes out there. Too many spaces there. I do like how the computer mount fits into the stem though, and it's a K-edge design, so super stable, really secure with a computer, lights, camera on the bottom, top of that. And then the other dislike really, while tyre clearance has improved to 51, with 45, there's not much clearance. I mean, that's pretty slim. And around the back, the same old story. I mean, there's not much space there really. So quite tight. Same down there. And it's, I mean, we've had a week of rain, and while the trails here are quite dry because it's been such a dry summer, it's getting muddy. And mud clearance is an issue riding here in the UK, sadly. And tyre clearance has to factor in mud clearance as well. And this bike, I do worry, yeah, it's pretty minimal. And then the other, I love frame storage. I think it's a great feature, but I'm not sure this is the best solution. They use a fidlock lever there, and there are a couple of issues. One, the neoprene bag inside is smaller than other ones from MV and Giant, so it does compromise how much stuff you put in there, which is an issue. But then it's not very well finished around there, and it's a bit rough around the edges, quite sharp edges there. There's some carbon sort of flaking off there, and there's a bit of extra carbon there, so the hole isn't as big as it could be. So the access hole is quite small, and those sharp edges just feels a bit rough, a bit pre-production. Doesn't feel as mature a product, a solution as something like the Specialized SWAT, which is a really nice system. Had that on my Epic mountain bike, and it is really, really nice. So yeah, so that goes back inside. It's empty at the moment for filming, and then got a metal tab there which goes inside there, and then fidlock, and that has to be pushed down to lock it in place. Once in place, it's all secure and stable. So yeah. So let's talk money and prices. And this frame, the Italia, is made in Italy in a process I showed you in a recent video, linked above in case you missed it. And despite that, the prices are pretty good. I mean, they're not cheap or affordable, but not crazy, eye-wateringly expensive, despite being made in Italy. So a frame set will set you back just under £4,500 or $6,500. And that compares well to a Specialized Experts Crux, for example, which is also £4,500, and that's made in Taiwan. How much it being made in Italy matters to you? It may matter a big deal over a frame made in Taiwan. Nothing against that frame made in Taiwan. You might just prefer the fact it's made in Italy, and it might be a USP for you. But if not, it's on a sort of specialized sort of pricing point. And then complete builds start from £7,300 or $11,000. And the bike I've been riding is a SRAM Force Explorer build, costing £7,300, nearly $12,000. With the company's, with 3T's own discus wheels, carbon fiber wheels, super wide, a 29mm internal rim width, and a 40mm external rim width. So super wide, definitely going in that direction of the Zip Explorer wheels in terms of width. And they are laced to scope hubs with sapling spokes and have a claim weight of just over 1,400 grams. So super wide, but also pretty light as well. And their bike here weighs 9.2 kilos on my scales with no pedals fitted, but with 2 bottle cages and a computer mount. So about a kilo heavier than that Giant Revolt I recently reviewed, linked out above in case you missed it. So yeah, not heavy, but it could be lighter. So, time for my verdict on riding the bike for the last few weeks. Does it deliver the speed the company says it should deliver? Well, yeah, it's clearly a very fast bike, and I would probably put it just above the Italia Rave SLR I recently reviewed, and it does remind me quite a bit of the Canyon Grail, which has similar size tyres on the bike I rode. So it feels quite similar to the Canyon Grail in terms of speed and responsiveness, and a bike that's just as at home on the road as it is on gravel, thanks to that geometry. A bike that can do all road or gravel and road really well. Even the tyres on, they're not slow on the road at all. So a very fast rolling tyre. That stem is too long for me, but oddly the fit didn't feel too bad. I wasn't crazy stretched down to the inline seat post and that steep 74-degree seat tube angle. So the fit actually felt pretty good, but personally I'd go for a shorter stem. I don't know if tyre clearance is enough for people buying a bike who want that future-proofing or the ability to fit a mountain bike tyre or something wider. So I wish I had gone bolder on the tyre clearance, given the way tyres are getting wider, and we're seeing bikes with 57 and 58mm tyre clearance on the market right now. So it feels like it's not as bad as Canyon with a 42mm tyre clearance, but that Italia Rave with a 53 max tyre clearance, so they could have gone a bit bolder. Not the bike I would choose for doing sort of tame mountain bike trails. Something like the 51 Assassin or the Italia Adler would be better in that kind of scenario where you are thundering down
rough tracks and you want the shorter stem and the longer reach and a slacker head tube angle to give that sure-footedness you want from a bike. This bike doesn't lack that, but doesn't have it in the same way other bikes do. I do like the fact it's made in Italy. I think that's a cool thing these days, and I like to see more manufacturing brought closer to home just because it's a nice thing to do. And the price, although higher than other bikes like the Canyons and the Giants out there, is no more than a Specialized. So if you're looking at a Specialized, this might be an interesting alternative to that. But perhaps my bigger concern is this bike is essentially an update on the RaceMax, and that's an update on the Explorer from 2016. And if you didn't buy one of those bikes for whatever reason, the looks, this new version won't probably persuade you to buy it if you discounted it in the first place. So that's my only reservation around the RaceMax 2 and the look of the bike, the general design approach, that you either love it or you maybe don't love it so much. And if you, like I say, if you discounted it in the past, the new version won't do much for you. Just depends what you're looking for in a gravel bike these days. So there we go, my review of the new 3T RaceMax 2 Italia. I'll put a link to their website down below if you want to find out more. This video not sponsored by 3T, of course. Check out my actual sponsors down below in the description of today's video. And I'll catch you all again very soon. If you want to see some other gravel bikes definitely worth considering, then watch the video right up here.